Hi everyone, this is a little on-camera commentary on how we made this, our 8th teaser cartoon for Aqualung's games reviews, and we started doing these for the Mega Man reviews. We didn't do one for the first one, but I later did a whole cartoon where I had all the Mega Man 1 Robot Masters, so that was the Robot Masters poker game, and you can find that on my channel if you like. Recently did the Sonic cartoon as well, which was interesting and different, and doing the Robot Master cartoons, there's a kind of work process that goes into it, which is either one of us, either me or Ken, comes up with the idea for the cartoon, then we kind of work on the script together, we kind of throw in lines that we think would work, things like that. Principally, either one of us does sort of the majority of the writing, and then usually it works out the best that way, you know. So one of us always has the better ideas in each individual cartoon, and Ken really had the best ideas for a good bunch of the first ones, so the first 3 ones really. And after that, it's been more me coming in and putting ideas in. And having done so many of these cartoons, it was kind of hard to come up with a new, fresh scenario that would be interesting to everyone. And because, especially after we did the Mega Man 5 one, which was so animated, so full of stuff, we wondered, you know, could we ever do anything as good as that one? But, you know, we've done our best, and, you know, people seem to have liked what we did. I didn't want to, you know, I kind of wanted to go back in a way to the sort of old cartoons where it was just characters talking, but I didn't want it to be exactly like that, so I had to come up with something new to it, and so the Ken being a psychiatrist bit was born out of that. The second problem is that I've never done any cartoons with the Mega Man 8 Robot Masters, and that's because I've never played Mega Man 8, and so I don't have that same history with the Robot Masters I have with all the Robot Masters at the other Mega Man games. And I don't know if Ken is ever going to do a Mega Man 9, Mega Man 10 review. If he is, we'll probably do a teaser cartoon for those. And of course, the funny part is that I pretty much voice acted as almost all of the Robot Masters. Not all of them. Napalm Man and Wave Man didn't have any dialogue in the Mega Man 5 cartoon, but for the rest of them, I've done practically all of them. I've done practically all the Robot Masters, which sounds pretty disturbing. Okay, so this is Ken's design for this cartoon. Ken's design, I mean my design of the character that Ken plays in the cartoon, and he always plays himself. And yes, this, if people wonder, does Ken look like this? Roughly, I'd say yes. I mean, he gave me a photograph once to work on when we did the very first cartoon, and he usually goes with his hair open, but because he's supposed to be a psychiatrist, I decided, well, he's more professional, so he'll have a ponytail. And notice also that this is our first cartoon in widescreen. No particular reason why we've never done widescreen before, it's just never occurred to us. I decided, well, we got to do something different. And also notice that the backgrounds are sort of shaded. The characters aren't, but, you know, that's just my laziness. I decided the shaded background because, again, if it's just a plain gray background, it's not going to look as nice. Here is Swordman, and Swordman's bit was pretty much the first one we wrote, and I wasn't sure if it was going to play, but then it helped that I just drew the sword, or drew him scratching his head with the sword, so that helped. It's missing all the symbols. I know there's supposed to be symbols on the sword, but I left them out because it was just much more easier to animate that way. And like I said, it's not just that I haven't played Mega Man 8, which is what makes the characters hard to draw, but I've played Mega Man 7, and even when I did the Mega Man 7 cartoon, I ended up having the character models, which I went on Google and, you know, typed out the names of the Robot Masters, and I had to end up looking at the character models themselves because they got so much detail. Like, it doesn't have like just round shoulder pads. He has this thing on the top with the ball. He has these things on his chest, which I don't know why Capcom keeps having the Robot Masters have anything on their chest, because they always end up look like boobs. But then he has that nice little bit of detail with these 4 dots on the foreground. But if you look at it very closely, and the same is true for all the other Robot Masters, if you look at it very closely, you start to notice certain characteristics that do appear in practically all the Robot Masters. I mean, the eye bit, well, that's kind of a little bit of base there, but the helmet, the shape of the helmet, it kind of reminds me of Flash Man, the color scheme, which they use very wonky colors in Mega Man 8, but I realized when I look at very closely, okay, what color is he supposed to be? And I realized it's red. So any red Robot Master with yellow highlights, it always comes out reminding me of Metal Man, which is of course not a bad thing by any means. This clock is the most dumbest little detail, but I knew from the very beginning that I was going to have it, because I felt that it's a time frame thing that Ken is kind of seeing all these patients all at the same time. So let's see. Notice that his chin is actually moving as he talks. So that's a little detail I threw in. I felt that we needed that little bit of detail in there. So the hardest part is not just the voices. Oh, I love this little bit with Tengu Man. There was a little error in the script originally. I had to have him wear the jack-o'-lantern head twice, but we fixed that. I realized at the last second I had to throw that clown in there, which means there's two clowns in the cartoon basically. And the design is also very distinct. I mean, he's the most distinct looking of all the Robot Masters from Mega Man 8. It's because of the nose, the fact that he's based on a Japanese demon. You know, that helps. And I had him cry a little, shed a little tear. Oh, by the way, I complained so much, or actually it was in the original sound clip for when I did Burst Man, that Burst Man was going to have like, a whole different bag of beans here, but, so Dustman only had 2 lines in the last cartoon, yes and no, and I even made a little joke on the original audio file. This is the most difficult role ever, just two words, and yet Aquaman in this cartoon has 1 line, just 1. Okay, well now we come to the most interesting part. I mean, just look at that. I know it's not very well drawn, and I didn't mind that much because I felt that this bit was going to go fast so quickly that you wouldn't notice, but here I am, pointing it out to you. Anyway, Searchman's camouflage. You know, camouflage in cartoons, it's usually the dark color on bottom and then splotches of the lighter color on top. But this is a clusterfuck right here. And I tried my best to copy the sort of color scheme, but there's no pattern to it. It's just camouflage all over the character. The other helmet, that's something that I missed, and I hate that because I tried to have all 4 shades of shitty colors all on the ones. One thing about this bit that changed radically was originally I was going to have Searchman's 2 heads speak in the exact same voice, but then I had a look at the character model and I realized, oh fuck, you know, his head does not look anything like his head. Like, he has the big Gutsman jaw, which I ended up not using. He just has a mouth that moves independently, and the other guy looks like the masked Robot Masters, and that was a bad thing because now the joke's not funny anymore. It was funny when I thought they had the exact same head, so when they're arguing with each other and they would have the exact same voice, you know, you know, that would have been the gag, but now it didn't work, so I ended up having to take the sound file, pitching the voice up a little bit, and I still think it sounds a little too much like the other character. I mean, you could tell it's the same diction and everything, but you know, you do what you gotta do. The eyes, for no particular reason. I just wanted them to I just wanted to sell that they were 2 distinct characters, like 2 horses of a different color who just happened to share the same body. Oh yes, coffee break, and yes, that's supposed to be Roll. I'm sorry she looks terrible here. I've drawn Roll in another cartoon. She looked much better there, and I've drawn Roll quite a bit. She doesn't have a voice. The reason is that this is just a cameo anyway. Notice the Amiga logo, because Ken is a big Amiga fan. He does the Amiga reviews. Sorry, Atari. Fuck, I just mixed up Atari and Amiga. I'm an ass. So the Atari logo on the cop, Ken really liked that. He didn't tell me to do that. I did that all by myself. And, of course, in a minute you're going to see the classic bit from the Mega Man 5 cartoon. He tries to look at his watch, and he pours the coffee on his shirt. It's a really obscure gag to repeat. Oh man, Clown Man, the hardest Robot Master to animate, because, okay, here's the secret. I animated his mouth first, and every single frame I drew the body differently. So you can tell, like, there's no consistency here, and there's not supposed to be at all. Oh, that's I stopped on possibly the worst still on him, but you can notice that the helmet shape, the little triangle there, you know, it's all very classic Mega Man design. It's just that I thought that with the shoulder pads and everything, it was going to look very difficult to draw, so I gave him a straitjacket just to make it easier. The laughing gag, which you can't hear here, I had 3 takes on different takes. What you heard here before was the first take, and here we used the 3rd take. And we didn't want to use this as the primary take, and I have to admit it wasn't as good. But it was great because I had him behind the door, and I could lower the volume a little bit on that one. I was afraid that I'd get the times wrong all the time. You notice that the 2 is actually just a upside-down 5. And here is the most amount of wasted animation ever. It's Aquaman, who has one line in the whole cartoon. I'm surprised I didn't complain about that. Notice he's missing his 2nd shoulder pad there, but I figured no one would notice. This is another one of those gags that I was afraid was going to fly by and nobody was going to notice. So I had the bubble come up and burst at the top, just to add a little life into this scene. I mean, that's the main thing I wanted to do, is that even if the writing wasn't always as good, and it wasn't always very good, the Swordman bit, for instance, it's not funny on paper, but the minute you add a little sight gag to it, then it becomes slightly better. I love that facial expression. Some repeated animation here. This one was shuffled from before Clown Man into, you know, the Frostman bit, because I was afraid that people were going to think that they were two similar bits, too close together. His face is red because it is supposed to be red, but it's kind of weird. The shading didn't quite work, and he also has the forced dots. So I suppose this guy's designed by the same guy as Swordman. And yes, that's a surf bot from Mega Man Legends that he's playing with. Some of you might think that it looks like a Lego character, which it kind of does. It's not, you know, I wasn't going for detail because it was just a tiny, tiny little thing there. And this, I made a pee-pee thing, was what I made to up ante the popsicle, the famous popsicle bit from the Andrew Dickman cartoons. If I wasn't going to do anything as funny, at least I would do something that was gross, as you can tell from his expression. Okay, let's see, Astro Man. This was a bit I wasn't 100% sure was gonna play when I first did it. I mean, I knew it was retarded, Astro Man, Austrian Man, and doing an Arnold Schwarzenegger voice, but I'd been dying to do like an Arnold Schwarzenegger voice in a cartoon before, even though my Arnold is not very good, but I thought that it would be fun. So, but definitely, I have to say, Astro Man, very distinct looking, doesn't look very good here because he has very rounded shapes. But I knew that this bit was going to be easy, so I didn't put that much effort on it. And again, it's another one of those bits that just flies by. So I was afraid that, you know, not that people are going to complain or anything, but, you know. And finally, Grenade Man. I love this. Ken delivered this beautifully. I mean, he made a little mistake, but I left it in because I figured he's nervous. Of course, he's going to mess up his words a little bit here. So, and the gag, you know, we always try to save the best gag for last. So, obviously, it's Grenade Man, and he pulls the thing out, which is not there. If you go look at the character design, you'll notice that this design is simplified quite a bit from the original design. The original Grenade Man, he has like a thing here that looks like, I don't know, the collar of a coat, kind of. But, you know, I wanted to emphasize the fact that he looks like a grenade, which he doesn't. Every grenade that I've seen looks green, not blue. But at least he has the warning lines, so you get a sense of urgency, like red and yellow and black are sort of warning signs. And he does have the handle of a grenade, which is nice, but I added why can't I remember what that's called? The thing that he pulls out, the thing you pull out of a grenade to make it blow up, basically. I think I should have had like a ring here, but I think that would have been putting too much detail. I mean, this was putting in too much detail already. And of course, after the explosion, we had a little cameo by Mega Man. Of course, we finally had to have a cameo by Bass because, you know, we talked about having one for the Mega Man 7 one, but I don't think we ever did. We never got that far in the thought process that it would have been a good idea.